Hello everybody, this is Meridoc, and today I'm joined again by my friend Oz, and we are going to complete a conversation that we had 2 weeks ago.
We're gonna get into the good times today.
Well, there's one or two good times followed by a seriously long drought of shit. But we're going to talk about Final Fantasy X first.
Yes, we're gonna talk about the good side.
Good side. Welcome to Words4Nerds. Cue the music. Wait.
We don't have any music yet.
Oh. Damn. Okay. Anyway, Final Fantasy X. Yeah, about that. Well, let's start with our same method as last time. What do you like about the game, Corey?
There's not much you can't not like about that game.
Except maybe Yuna's voice.
The characters... Oh, I'll get to that. The characters, the story was really good. There was a couple big turns that you had that you didn't really see coming the first time around. Mm-hmm. Now, even going back, if you don't remember like how it goes, and you start playing it, you're like, oh, I see where this is going. I see where this is going. But the first time around, you're like, oh, all right, okay. Now, we won't get into any spoilers here, just because,
I'm going to say that I had a lot of likes about the game. I mean, we're going to talk about this in depth. This is a big topic for this one.
It is.
But my primary like was probably the art style for the game.
Yeah.
And the music. Because it was really Nobuo Uematsu's last big Final Fantasy game. And he went all out, and he included a lot of great themes in it.
I'll tell you, I really liked the strategy that was involved when it came to the battle system. Because it was a lot more different than ATB.
Mm-hmm.
It was
because you could control with a great deal of
flexibility
the order of battle.
Yeah, you could see the order of battle. You didn't have to rush in to make a decision based on your opponent's bar, watching it fill and everything like that. And I don't believe there's any other numbered Final Fantasy game that's like that.
It's really solid game. So let's get into talking a little bit more about what we like say, characters. Favorite character, Corey?
Oh, boy. That's really hard. Because, so the obvious answer is Auron, because he's really good. Like, everything about him is good. Even his voice actor's good.
What was his name? Matt McKenzie?
Matt McKenzie, yeah. And a lot of people didn't like a lot of the voices in Final Fantasy X.
Yeah.
But he, in particular, I can't think of one time he delivered a bad line. I think every single time it was solid.
Excellent delivery. His voice was perfect for the character.
Yeah.
Like, now when I think of gruff, older mentor characters, I think of his voice for that.
Oh, yeah.
I think of Auron.
Most definitely. He deserves more work.
Absolutely. And it's weird, because I guess he gets a lot of weird, detective roles and things like that.
Oh, I'm sure, because it's that voice. It's that voice. It's that commanding,
serious,
veteran,
authoritative. Yeah. So Auron's your favorite character? He's the favorite character.
He's the favorite.
If you didn't have to pick Auron, who would you pick?
I don't know. I really like. I mean, I like Riku as well.
Yeah.
Which
Shut up, you.
Which is also a common answer, but. I mean, I just like her. I liked her. Her overdrive was awesome. I really like that ability to mix together items and things like that. I thought it was super interesting. I've 100% completed the game twice, so having to learn all those mixture combinations and figure out which ones are the best without a guide, because I had no guide.
It was a really just a unique overdrive.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Pretty cool. Mine probably Kimahri Ronso.
Kimahri's good.
Kimahri Ronso is just maybe not his combat system, since I'm not a big fan of Dragoons, because jump ability is not that big of a deal for me.
All right.
But he was also a blue mage.
He was.
So he was a cool combination of blue mage and dragoon. But I don't know. It was more about his personality and the art that went into him.
Yeah.
And just
his
all
race.
of his background.
His race. Everything in his area around Gagazet was just really interesting.
Yep. The background music for Mount Gagazet is still... I just thought of it. I was like, what was that music? Oh yeah, there's the music in my head.
Exactly. It's like Cosmo Canyon. You can't forget it. It's stuck in your brain forever.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about the characters. What was your least favorite character?
My least favorite character... I don't like Lulu.
don't like
but it's
Lulu?
It's nothing personally against her. I just didn't like her because she was kind of mean to Waka, and I'm okay with Waka. A lot of people hate Waka. I'm okay with him. I thought he was cool because he was an athlete, which was one of those first type of things too.
Yeah, that's
where he was pretty unusual. I liked his weapon; that was unusual. He was a cool guy just in general. He seemed like this really goofy character, like this Zell character in the beginning.
Dude.
But then as he goes on, you really start to see the depth come out in him.
But he's a total bro.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, when I lived in Hawaii for 4 years, and so I spent a lot of time just meeting bros.
Yeah.
Just surfer bros, skater bros. I mean, he's total bro.
He is. But the reason I don't like
Sorry.
Lulu,
He's a bra. Bra.
He's a brother.
Oh, brother.
Anyway, I think that I don't like... The reason I don't like Lulu is mostly personal preference. I don't like to use magic very much, which is one of the things that we're going to get into. Probably my least favorite thing about this game, I'm jumping ahead, but one of my least favorite things about this game is that sometimes it forced you to use magic, and that always kind of... It always kind of bummed me out, especially early game when you can't, like, max out Sphere Grid, like I always did.
Because it's easy.
Yeah.
You just take your time.
Not to mention the Sphere Grid is awesome.
Yeah. Alright, so let's leave characters behind then. Favorite memorable moment in the game?
Probably the very first part. Like, I can remember watching the opening cutscene with, like, Sin and everything. It was the first time I'd ever seen anything
that beautiful
like that before. And just watching that cutscene right before Titus gets sucked up, you know?
Where Orin's got hold of him. And
Orin's got him and everything. That scene is unbelievable.
It is absolutely stunning, and it kind of sets the mood for the whole game.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
If it wasn't going to be that one, because I agree with you, is there another one that you'd pick?
Probably the other FMB, the other big one, the one that happens in Luca. When the stadium is in, like, absolute chaos.
When Anima gets summoned?
And Anima gets summoned by Seymour. It's unbelievable. Like, that is amazing. Orin shows up where you haven't seen him. He just kind of appears. And you're just like, oh, it's the guy from the beginning. Yes! Thank God.
Did he just cut that thing in half?
Yeah.
He just cut that thing in half.
And that's what I love about it, is that they set him up as just this huge... He's still strong. Like, you come back to him later in the game, and he's still strong. He's still just as powerful.
He's a legendary guardian.
He is.
Okay. Yeah, I'm to attempt to not use the same one that you're using. Because there are a lot of great, impressive moments in this game.
Yeah.
I'm actually probably going to say the wedding scene.
Okay.
Where Yuna jumps off the tower and has Valfor catch her.
Yeah.
That was just... One, beautifully animated. The themes in that video, with like the white in like in the dress looks like wings and feathers. It's just stunning to look at.
It's a little bit trite, but I can see it.
I mean, it would have been better if Yuna hadn't been talking in it.
Boy, and yeah, you look at Seymour in the FMVs, and God, he's just grotesque.
Yeah,
he's awful.
Yeah. He looks like a really creepy elf. And I guess that's really what the Guado were to that game. They were the creepy elf race of the game. Yeah. Alright, so that was memorable moments. Oh yeah, since we just mentioned Seymour, how do you feel about Seymour as a character?
I think he's a great villain. I think it was a little bit weird that they
insisted on repeatedly bringing him back.
Well, it's not even that. It's just he kind of separated and ceased to be. I thought he was going to be like the main guy, but then he started to separate away, and they're like, no, you're trying to fight Sin still. He has nothing really to do with it. And he just kept showing up, and it almost felt like he was kind of comedy relief, which I wasn't too big a fan of, because I really feel like he could have stepped up and took that main role. He was kind of like a Kuja.
He could have been a better Kuja.
Yeah. That's what I feel like he was. Because when I went back and played 9, I played 10 first. I went back and played 9, and I was like, Kuja, this guy kind of reminds me of Seymour, and he just kept coming around, but he never really did anything. And I was like, alright.
Alright, so favorite thing about the game?
God, the whole thing. Mocking.
Mocking?
Yeah, his history lessons.
Oh, right.
Who's that guy's voice actor?
I don't know, but he was excellent.
I love him. He's so good. He has a voice that I don't think I've heard anybody else talk like that before.
No. So Mockin's history lessons were your hands down favorite thing about the game? Really?
I really did like it, though. No, I'd say the battle system, probably, like I said earlier. It was just so much... It was so much more
in-depth and rich and
Yeah,
strategically minded.
It required you to think a lot more.
The fact that you could use summons as a replacement for your characters on the battlefield, which made your entire party more survivable when you had a meat shield with the HP of a freaking... Oh, God.
The fact that
my brain just stopped working while I was trying to parse that out.
The fact that you could switch characters
yeah.
in and out whenever you wanted,
that was big.
helped with the whole thing that I was saying earlier, where it forced you to use magic or like flying enemies. Oh, they're more susceptible to Waka, so you switch in Waka if you care about such things, which you don't have to worry about.
Yeah, you could literally bash your way through that game with just Titus, Ornn, and Kamari. In fact, for a large portion of that game, I did bash my way through it with Titus, Ornn, and Kamari.
That's right.
Because there was no reason not to.
You know, or you could solo everything with Riku, like I did. Because you can order the other two to run away.
You could solo everything with Ornn.
That's true.
Like you do for a portion of the game.
That's
just
true.
Because you get the feeling that he's that much better.
Yeah, really.
Okay, my favorite part of that game, I'm going to say the summons themselves. Mm-hmm. Like the stories behind them, the what they actually are, that they end up being summoners themselves.
Yeah.
Like that was awesome.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Like
the hymn of the faith that each one sings is a different person singing, and it's a very beautiful song to just sit and listen to. But two, when you get them all singing together in the finale, gorgeous.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. You wouldn't think that it would go together, but it really does.
Yup. What else about them? The art style for them, especially Anima, who is just the top half is gorgeous to look at. As far not like pretty, but like the detail and just,
from an artistic standpoint, it's very beautiful. Yeah,
and then you use her overdrive.
Yeah,
and it's just disgusting. It's a horrifying netherrealm demon creature that beats the piss out of everything it touches. Yeah. And you're like, oh, damn. Anima's terrifying.
Yeah.
I want it.
Well, it's like, that's how I feel like they set that up in that cutscene, too, in Luca. Like, he summons Anima, and Anima just kills everything.
Everything. But then you see the little blood tears coming out, and you're like, oh.
As he looks back, as she looks back at him.
And you're like, oh, Anima's a sad character.
And then you really learn who Anima is, and you're like, oh no, this explains everything.
My feels hurt.
Yeah, pretty much. Except for,
who cares about Seymour?
Yeah.
I cared more about his mom.
Yeah, right?
She was the interesting part of his story.
Spoiler, God.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Hint. Spoilers.
Game came out like 10 years ago.
Yeah. There's a certain limit, a statute of limitations on how long you can say
Dumbledore dies.
Oh no! Book came out like 7 years ago.
Eris dies. Bruce Willis was dead the whole time.
Oh no!
Welcome to the spoiler cast.
Least favorite thing about Final Fantasy X?
Probably the lack of a world map.
Yeah?
Which is something we haven't mentioned yet. I liked the airship, but when you go from a game like 7 to a game like 10, it really cuts down the exploration. We actually talked about this before we went on live with the podcast last time. We talked about how 10, it still had that exploration because there were certain... You could enter coordinates and go to different places that weren't necessarily on that map, but it still just didn't have that walk around and just...
find things for yourself.
Yeah, and they tried to do it with the Calm Lands, and again later, this same thing actually happens in Final Fantasy 13 later on.
Does it?
Which we'll get to, yeah. Where they were like, well, we'll give them a big area that they can wander around in, and that'll be like their
world map.
Yeah, that'll be their penance.
Yeah.
That'll be our penance to them for not giving them the world map.
Yeah. I got to agree with you. It's definitely the fact that we don't have a world map. Part of the great thing about the Final Fantasy games on the PlayStation 1 was that they had such a great, grand, big open world that you could explore and see all the flavor and detail that they put into it. Because they did. 7 through 9 had so much interesting detail. Less so 7, more so the other ones. Actually, I'm going to say less so 8 even. 9 was really where it was at.
It was, yeah.
But 10, you just got... It was like playing a Guild Wars game where it's just instanced everything.
It was set pieces.
Yeah, it was Exactly. It was a set that you walked onto. Mm-hmm. And you couldn't change your camera angle.
No.
Which was bullshit.
Yeah.
Because I would have liked to get a look at some of those sets from a different angle. They would have
Especially
been really
considering, like, Besaid Island is probably one of the most amazing places.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
With all the wreckage around and everything like that. There's a couple parts where you actually can get up on top of some of the wreckage to get some chests later on in the game. But if you come back...
Isn't that how you have to get one of Waka's items to unlock his...
Oh, I'm sure. I honestly don't remember.
Yeah, to unlock
I haven't played the remaster yet, so I haven't gotten around to it.
Soon, man. We'll get to it. It has been 2 weeks, and I keep seeing it on my PlayStation, and I'm like, I should buy that. But I'm not going to yet. We'll come to that. But yeah, I think that's probably fine for talking about Final Fantasy X. Just as a side note, this was my favorite Final Fantasy game.
Yeah, see,
it feels the most put together.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I wouldn't say it's my favorite, because I used to feel that way. Mm-hmm. I used to like 7, and then I switched it because I was like, I don't really like Cloud, because he's kind of a rough character. And then I'm like, but I don't really like Titus either.
No, you cannot like Titus. He's so...
I mean, he's better. I think he's better than Cloud.
But his character is a naive character.
Because he has direction.
Which I hate.
And then I was like, so I don't know. And then I played Final Fantasy 14, and it was a whole new ball game. But that's not fair, because you can play your own character. Yeah.
All right. So, Final Fantasy X, my secret favorite, next to 9. It ties with 9. If 9 had voice acting, 9 would be hands down the best Final Fantasy game ever made.
Final Fantasy 7, and I know that 1,000,001 people have said this, if Final Fantasy 7 was fixed with the voice acting, with the voice actors from Advent Children, God, would that be a good game. Holy crap, would that be a good game. Everybody would forget about the fact that Cloud is a bitch for the entire game.
Just because he has a voice.
It would not matter, because that game would be unbelievable. Barrett, Sid, jeez.
Because it would be less like reading a book or playing a video game, more like watching a movie.
Yeah.
I think that would probably make the big difference.
Yeah.
All right. We're not going to talk about Final Fantasy 11 because it's an MMO. We're going to hit Final Fantasies 11 and 14 in our MMO segment, which is going to be the next week.
Yeah.
Or next 2 weeks from now, I should say. So we're going to skip 11. Actually, we didn't touch 10-2. Damn it.
Oh, you're right.
10-2.
This might have to be just the Final Fantasy X episode. Final Fantasy X-2. Well, let's go through this quick.
It's a short game. It's not long.
It is. I beat it actually in, I think 6 hours.
Yeah, something like 6 to 8 hours of gameplay if you just rush through it.
Yeah, and I didn't even know. Like, I wasn't trying to rush through it. I was trying to take my time, but I didn't realize that there's, like, a set pattern that you have to go through things. You can miss things very easily. Yep. It's very much a Japanese game for sure. It's like go everywhere that you've already been to. Go back there and talk to everyone. In a lot of ways,
it felt like a Zelda game.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. That said, it's absolutely a Final Fantasy game. Really quick, what do you like about it?
Dress spheres. Oh my god.
Dress spheres were interesting.
Some people hate them. I thought it was a great idea.
It's a really cool way to handle a class system.
Yes.
Especially allowing every character to be any class you want, which is essentially what the Sphere Grid did.
Right.
But it was a fixed class set.
Right.
In 10.2, you can just do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, you can make it anything you wanted.
My favorite thing was not just the dress spheres, but the overdrives for the dress spheres. Because those were very, very cool.
Makin and Ma, Floral Falau, stuff like that, yeah.
What was Riku's?
Riku's was Makin and Ma.
Was it? Then what was Pain's?
I honestly don't know.
It was something with... I just remember it had knives. She was like a giant knife bird.
Yeah, I don't know. She probably turned into Gilgamesh or something. Anyway.
Gilgamesh. I love Gilgamesh.
I do.
Alright. Oh, wait. I think I just found my new favorite thing for all Final Fantasy games. Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh.
Alright. Favorite character in 7... Or not 7. 10-2.
10-2? Riku. Obviously. Riku? She's just so good. And it has nothing to do with what she's wearing. I actually prefer Final Fantasy X Riku.
Yeah.
But Riku's just better. Yuna's kind of depressive the whole time. Pain I just don't like. Because she reminds me of Lulu.
She reminds me of a weird mix between Lulu and Auron, actually.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And I'm okay with that, which is why she's probably my favorite character. That and whatever his name was, the boss of the Crusaders, who had like the limp or whatever it was. Or
that's
Nugent.
Nuge. And I don't remember what his last name is, but yeah, him. He's good.
He was an interesting character.
He was, yeah.
Actually, that whole story about Payne's background and the Crusaders and all that.
He had a trope though. That game
That game was tropey as shit.
10-2 had that Japanese trope of like the tall guard and the short fat guard, like the tall skinny guard and the short fat guard. They do that. That.
Logos and Ormy again?
Yeah, they do that all the time
Yep.
in Tales games. And so I'd already played Tales of. What the heck was it? I don't remember. It's the one on 360. I can't remember.
Was that Abyss?
No. That's PlayStation 2.
I thought it was a 360 game.
It doesn't matter. I keep thinking Tales of Symphonia, but that's not it. Anyway, that game, Yuri is the main character, if anybody. Like, comment, and subscribe if you know the name of that game. If you... at the very beginning, you engage two guys. One's a tall, skinny knight, and one's a short, fat knight. And then when I went and played 10-2 later on after that, I was like, hey, are they like making fun of Tales or something? And then I looked it up online, and Snopes was like, no, you idiot. They do this stuff all the time on like all Japanese games, so it's fine.
Yeah. This is actually probably the first Japanese game that I played that I saw that. And I didn't notice it until probably a few other games I played through, and then I was like, wait a minute.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
I mean, it's not a big deal, though. It's not something that you would notice if you weren't looking for it.
No, it's absolutely subtle, and it's not like they push it in your face, like, look at this skinny knight and this short fat knight, remember these guys?
Yeah, it's like it's the Japanese equivalent to the American joke of Mutt and Jeff.
Yeah.
The ridiculous tall guy and the
That's honestly probably where it came from.
Yeah, it's just a tall man and short man joke.
Yeah.
Alright, memorable moments.
Fighting Trema, beating Trema. Anybody who's ever fought Trema, we're going to come back to the whole thing I said about Emerald Weapon 2 weeks ago. Anybody who's beaten Trema knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Post-traumatic stress disorder.
If you beat Trema, boy, you are just you're giving yourself a thumbs up right now. You're making yourself a cup of tea and then crying into it.
Comment if you beat Trema.
Yeah, that's right.
And then everyone thumbs up people that beat Trema.
That's right.
Mine is... I hate to be this guy, but it was the hot tub scene.
Oh, yeah.
The secret hidden fan service scene.
What a surprise. Talk about tropes.
Yeah. That was definitely a very Japanese thing to put in it.
Let me tell you what, though. Actually, I want to say, my favorite part, I'm just going to skip right ahead. My favorite part of that game, the closure. Because I got to be honest, the perfect ending.
The perfect ending, okay.
The one that everybody looked up on YouTube.
So, yeah, if you didn't play all through the game like 3 times, you couldn't get the perfect ending.
That's right.
So, what he's talking about is an ending where, what the fuck's the name? Titus. Mm-hmm. So, everything gets wrapped up like you might have seen in the normal ending. And then, Yuna's hanging out on the beach and she's making her wish. And then... What is it? Did like Titus just come up from the water or something?
Yeah,
like
because
that?
See, here's what happened. If you remember from the end of Final Fantasy X, he's in the water and he starts swimming upwards, and you're like, "What's going to happen?"
And then it picks up from there. He bursts from the water,
right?
And then out of nowhere, what was the name of the ship they used in 10-2?
I can't remember, but the Gullwing ship.
The Gullwing, yeah. I think it was called the Gullwing.
No, they were the Gullwings, I think.
Were they? Okay, maybe, whatever. Their ship just comes, like, swooping down. The fucking hatch drops, and Yuna just, like, jumps out of the airship into the water, gets scooped up by Titus?
I believe so,
I think she gets caught.
But it's just, like, that
That
scene.
was the closure that you needed.
And it was just like, yes, because I was so... I'm not a very emotional person.
But that was something that you got into.
That ending for Final Fantasy X was so traumatic to me because I'm just like, it doesn't matter.
There wasn't
what happens.
a happy ending.
Yeah, exactly. It's like there's always usually a happy ending. Final Fantasy VII didn't really have a happy ending either. It kind of had that same ending. I don't know. Final Fantasy.
But you got your closure for 7 too.
Yeah,
8 has a happy ending.
Final Fantasy VIII has a happy ending.
8 has a happy ending.
Final Fantasy IX, I believe, has a happy ending.
Yep.
Oh yeah, it does because I've seen the ending cutscene.
Yeah. Neither nor cloud nor squall shall keep me from her. That was probably one of my other favorite parts about 9. We're going to jump back. At the very end of 9, there's Tantalus group is putting on another play. I think it's the same play they put on the first time.
Oh, I'm sure.
And one of the lines is, neither cloud nor squall will keep me from her. And he's talking about his love. And he pulls off this hood, and it's Zidane talking about Dagger. But the fact that they made a subtle reference to 2 other characters, and that reference was made by the 3rd primary character, that made me really happy.
Absolutely.
Back to 10-2.
Okay, and so that closure that I got was like, it was very valuable to me because watching him jump off the plane at the end, or jump off the airship at the end of 10.
Yeah.
And like, first of all, the dude bro high five at
with
the
his
end
dad.
Was it a dad?
It was with Jekt. Oh no.
Was it with Orin?
Ooh.
I don't remember. Anyway, he does that. He
does the high five.
He does the high five at the end, and I'm like, no, come on. And then they show the whole cutscene with Yuna, and she's really sad, and I'm like, oh, because I never really cared about Yuna too much as a character, but I was like, oh no, she's sad because Titus is gone, and I felt something. I felt it. Like, I felt it. I didn't know until that point that I was feeling I was involved.
Yep.
But I really felt it at the end there. And to have that him
finally resolved,
to show him in the water and then have him start swimming up, I'm like, no,
is he alive?
I was like, oh my god.
And then no closure.
Yeah.
Talk about cliffhangers. All right. Favorite, least favorite moments, or favorite, least favorite things about the game.
Least favorite thing about the game, the fact that it didn't really give you any direction.
Yeah.
It's very Japanese in that way. Like, I've played games like Dark Souls now, where there's no direction. You have 0. You're told, they're like, go ring a bell.
Yeah.
You scrub, and I'm like,
and you scour the map for a bell.
I'm like, where's this bell?
Mine is probably gonna be my least favorite thing. First, I'm gonna say my favorite thing. Well, I'm going to say my least favorite thing, and I'm going to qualify it, because they're related. Least favorite thing, the premise that Yuna is a pop singer. Drives me nuts. It drives me absolutely freaking insane, and I don't understand what it was doing in a Final Fantasy game. Favorite thing, to follow on to that, the entire cutscene for 1,000 Words was beautiful to watch.
Man,
it was stunning, and the song itself was just good.
Yeah, absolutely. That song is really
Especially
good.
when seen in relation to that cutscene.
Absolutely.
Because it gives it context and meaning.
Yeah.
And it was just pretty.
It's better. I'd say that song is probably better than the one from 8.
Eyes on Me.
Yeah.
And then, okay, side note about Nobuo Uematsu and why he's one of the greatest composers ever. He writes pop songs for his video games that are actually really popular, famous pop songs. So Eyes on Me, he wrote for 8, and it became huge in Japan. For 9, he wrote Melodies of Life. That also became really popular. In 10, he didn't really try to pop... No, he wrote... the Black Mages did a version... his band, the Black Mages, did Otherworld.
Right.
The metal song. And I don't actually think he had almost nothing to do with 10-2. Yeah. So I don't know if he wrote that pop song or not.
I don't know either.
But if he did, kudos to you, Mr. Uematsu.
That song was so good.
Alright, so that was 10-2. We got it out of the way. We hit it. We talked about 10-2.
Speaking of things we need to get out of the way, let's talk about Final Fantasy 12.
I like it!
A New Hope.
A New Hope, is that what we're calling it?
That's what I call it. You know, it's
it really is a Star Wars
oh my
story.
God.
It really is.
Okay, I'm going to drop some knowledge on you folks right now. Final Fantasy 12 is Star Wars. This isn't just my theory. This is a theory of a lot of people. Think about it. You got fresh-faced blonde kid Vaughn. You got the clever space pirate smuggler Balthier and his furry companion Fran. They saved the princess.
They saved the princess.
You think that Vaughn and Ash are
the princess is kind of a badass.
Yeah. You think that Vaughn and Ash have a thing, then they end up not having a thing, and Balthier and Ash end up getting together. It's Star Wars.
Not only that, they infiltrate the enemy base at the very end and destroy it.
Yep.
Which, let's talk about my least favorite thing really quick. Why was it the Bahamut? Why was the enemy main ship named the Bahamut, and why didn't we have a summon named Bahamut?
I don't know, man.
Bahamuto!
Let me tell you what, that's my favorite thing about the game, though. If we're just gonna skip around, let's just have a symposium here.
Yeah.
My favorite part of that game was the summons. They were so amazing.
They were pretty to look at. Again, like 10s. Very pretty to look at. The art style on them was just gorgeous. And they were interesting, and they were new. Like, you've never had those summons before.
Yeah.
Not to my knowledge, anyway.
Going from going from 10 to 12, I was like, oh, we're going to get Ifrit. They say it a little bit different, whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, he's going to look pretty much the same as the one from from 10. I go there.
Who is always the same. He's always looked the same.
Yeah. Go there? No. Because Ifrit from 10 kind of looked like the one from 7. And so I'm like, oh, it's going to be more of the same.
Well, they've always had the same models for Ifrit and Shiva.
Yeah.
For the entire series.
Yeah. Which is another thing that we'll get into later with 13, because that's probably one of the best parts of that game.
That's the only good part of that game.
Excuse me. Lightning.
Back to 12.
Okay.
Sir.
Okay, so it's Star Wars.
It's Star Wars.
Which is not a bad thing, by the way. That doesn't make it bad.
It just makes it predictable.
Yes.
Favorite character? Probably Bosch.
Bosch is good.
Bosch and his brother, actually.
Oh, yeah. Gabranth.
Individually, they're just characters. Together, they're an interesting brotherly hate-love story that is epic and interesting and fun to read and watch.
Absolutely. That's probably one of the greatest things. Man, favorite character. I really like Balthier, obviously. I mean, he's a badass. He's awesome. I really like Fran, though.
Yeah?
Yeah, I feel like she was super underutilized.
Yeah,
they could have done more with her.
They made her to be a lot like a set piece and more of a set piece and less of a character.
I felt like they needed an important I can't even remember what the name of their race is.
V? Did it begin with a V?
VN? Something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I feel like they needed an important one of her race in order to push the story. They wanted to go to that land because they probably had it modeled and they were like, this is going to be really cool, and it was. But they were like, we need a reason to go here. There's no reason to go here if there's nobody in the party that would know that it even exists.
Yeah.
You know?
Also, that was actually one of my favorite areas to go.
Yeah,
is that where you got Eden?
I honestly don't remember.
Was it named Eden? I don't remember.
No, I don't think so.
That was from Final Fantasy VIII. I'm being stupid. God, what was that one's name? Zodiac? Or
I have no idea.
It had something to do with Zodiac. I don't remember. Okay. Memorable moments.
Not
many.
All the cutscenes.
Certainly not the music.
All the cutscenes.
This, by the way, was the first game that Nobuo Uematsu had absolutely nothing to do with.
And boy, did it show in the music.
Yep.
The music was so forgettable.
I can't think of a single piece of music from that game that I remember.
No, I can't think of one off the top of my head.
They included the fanfare.
Yeah,
but that's a Final Fantasy trope. It's but
only if you beat a boss. That's one of the things I hated.
It wasn't you beat an enemy. It was you beat a boss.
It was clear that they were trying to make a transition from Final Fantasy XI to going back to making games the way they had before. But to look at Final Fantasy X and then look at Final Fantasy XII, you're like, what the hell did you do to the combat?
Yep. Obviously, obligatory. It starts with the obligatory sewer level.
Yeah,
killing rats.
Absolutely.
Which is, I appreciate it, but I hate it.
Trope.
Favorite thing about 12.
I like the world. I think it's
Evil
really
East is a pretty interesting world,
and you can walk around it.
That's true. It wasn't just a.
It wasn't very much. There wasn't much fast traveling in that game either. You kind of just wanted to walk around and investigate things. Hunts were great.
The hunts are my hands down favorite thing about that game.
That game was hard.
Yeah, the bosses in that game weren't hard. I mean, they could be if you didn't level properly beforehand. Right. But I mean, if you play Final Fantasy, you know what grinding is.
Fill out the license boards. Get that Masamune.
Yep.
Bubble belt, all that stuff.
And then eventually you get to fight the only bounty who is really worth fighting.
Yzmet.
Shut up. You know what? You know it's Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh is good, but have you ever fought Yzmet again? Trema?
I'm not saying that...
Yzmet.
I'm not saying that he's not hard. Or was it a she?
Gilgamesh?
No. Yzmet.
Yzmet, I think, is a woman.
Yeah. Not that she's not hard. She's impossible.
Oh, yeah, she's impossible.
But she's not interesting.
No.
Gilgamesh is interesting.
That's true.
Gilgamesh is always interesting.
He always is interesting.
Because he's ridiculous.
He is.
He's comic relief, but he's cool.
That's true.
And especially, like, when he shows up in 8 as he bursts through the veil to take Odin's sword. Did he take Excalibur, or did he take...
Zantetsuken?
He took Zantetsuken, right. Yeah. Fucking love Gilgamesh.
Yeah, no, 12, the world was really great. I liked the atmosphere. I liked walking around.
I thought the leveling system was interesting, but not as cool as a sphere grid.
No, it wasn't as good as like your standard, even a standard leveling system.
Yeah. It was a weird little chessboard thing that you unlocked pieces on.
Yeah.
And that was interesting, but not great.
And I remember VG Cats actually made a comic years ago when the game first came out. They made a comic about it, about how you get a hat, and you're like, oh, yes, awesome. And it could have been like a rare drop off of a mob or whatever. And you're like, oh, yes, this is awesome. And then you're like, I'm going to put it on. And then, no, you don't have the license for that. And it's like, it's a hat.
That's right. You had to get licenses for your... That's what it was.
It was licenses for the armor. That was the big problem that people had. And that's legit. That's a legit gripe with that game.
All right. As a last note, it's something I always try and bring up when I talk about Final Fantasy XII with people. Because everyone's least favorite thing about that game, probably, like, if they're talking realistically, they're talking about Vaughn.
Yeah.
Because Vaughn's just not an interesting... The reason they don't like Vaughn is because he has nothing to do with the story.
He really doesn't.
He does not drive this plot. He doesn't even really partake in the plot. He is just there.
He's a vehicle.
And that's exactly what it is. And I thought that was a stupid thing at first, and then I read a developer's note about the game, and it was intentional. When they made the game, when they designed Vaughn, they didn't design him to be a main character. They designed him to be an opportunity for the player to view the story in the world of Ivalice without being involved in it too much.
Exactly. And see, that's how I feel. I've said the same thing about games like Mass Effect. It's the same thing. Commander Shepard is just a cardboard cutout that gets moved along to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. He's the same exact... That's why I usually hate that he gets involved. Like, romantically, they're trying to push him in, because that gives him too much characterization, and then he just sounds like a stale character.
And where Shepard is an actual driving force in the plot, Vaughn is not a driving force in the plot.
No.
And he's not supposed to be.
Right.
And I appreciate that. Like, I didn't appreciate it until I read that developer's note. Now I appreciate it, and I think it's a cool idea.
Well, I still think, however, that...
It's probably not good storytelling, but it is a good idea.
I still think that, even with Commander Shepard being a driving force, I still feel like in that game... I love Mass Effect.
He's just perhaps a little too involved in every detail.
No, I feel like he's always there, but everybody else is always doing everything. He's never doing anything. He just is like, you, go do that. And they're like, okay, Commander Shepard.
I don't know, I felt like I was doing quite a bit as Commander Shepard.
Well, yeah, you do a lot of fighting, but I mean, you can do that as Vaughn, too. That's the thing.
Yeah.
If you choose to do that.
Okay, so I guess that's pretty much all we had to say about 12. Where would you rate it on your list of Final Fantasy games?
It'd be pretty low.
Yeah. I'd say it's middling. I loved the graphics for it.
It was so good,
It was pretty to look at.
I mean,
that was probably the pinnacle of what you could expect from a PlayStation 2.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it was great, too, yeah.
Yep. Alright. We are going to move on to...
This is going to be exciting right here.
I freaking hate this game. Final Fantasy 13.
Let me ask you this.
And while we talk about it, we're just going to include all of the other 13s.
Yeah.
That is to say, 13-2
and Lightning Returns. Evan, did you play, how long did you play 13 for?
6 hours.
So you didn't make it out of the starting area, is what you're saying.
Oh, no, I did.
Let me tell you.
I freaking hate this game.
I waited.
Yeah?
For the game to pay off. I waited. We split off. We went off with some characters. Some of the characters were interesting. I'm like, oh, this is cool. Oh, I like Vanille. I don't know what the hell's going on with her accent, but whatever. She's cool.
Yeah, she really couldn't settle on one.
Love Saz. Love him. He's so good.
The Chocobo.
Yeah, I love him. And his story was so good.
The character designs were cool.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They were pretty to look at.
I love the world. The game itself is beautiful. It's unbelievable. That's one thing that we can agree on. See, and that's what's so funny. I'm going to say this right now since we're not going to talk about it later. Final Fantasy 15. I played the demo. That's one thing that I find interesting. We've been talking the whole time. 10 is better than 12. Obviously, that's pretty unobjective.
But
10 is better than 12. Really? 12 looks better. 12 doesn't look as good as 13. 13 looks much better. But these are also graphical improvements in the system themselves and in the white engine. I think they went from white engine to... Did they go to the black engine? Oh, I have no idea.
What did they name it?
I have no idea.
But Square constantly is revamping their graphics engines.
Here's the thing, though. 15 doesn't feel anywhere near as well designed from a map standpoint or from a character standpoint as 13. All the guys, all of them are guys.
Yeah.
All of them are a standard trope. It's the young guy, the really young scrappy kid. We got the big burly guy, and then we got the skinny tall guy with the glasses. Those are your 4 dudes. They all wear black, and only one of them doesn't have black hair.
Yeah.
It's awful. It's awful.
All right.
Anyway, yeah, I just had to get that out there.
13. My biggest gripe with the game is that it's a linear pathway.
Oh, yeah,
The
absolutely.
whole game is like walking down a corridor.
It is. It really is.
And that's terrible game design.
It is.
Especially in an RPG.
It's not good. I don't like Hope. I don't like him. He's just not a good character. People have argued with me till they're blue in the face about, oh, well, he's sad because his mom died, blah, blah, blah. It's like, big deal.
Everybody dies in these games.
Yeah. There's a war going on right now, kid. You can't sit around and mope all day.
Yep.
And I feel the same way about Cloud. Mm-hmm. It's like Cloud moped all the time, and everybody hated it.
I understand that you have a sad part of your story.
Exactly.
But to have that be the defining characteristic of your character is not acceptable. It makes for an annoying character.
And it never changes. Hope just gets mad.
Again, my biggest gripe in any game is a character that does not develop.
And also, the other thing about Hope is that he brings up another point where the weapons got a little bit weird. Mm-hmm. His weapon is dumb. It's stupid.
Yeah.
It's a stupid design. I like the idea of a boomerang character. The boomerang should be bigger, and they should be doing some kind of melee damage with it. You can't just like throw it and have it just slowly go at the enemy and then come back. That's so stupid.
Yep.
So stupid.
Favorite thing about the game? We mentioned it. We touched on it at least.
The way that it looks.
The way that it looks.
It really does look
the
beautiful.
Summons.
Yeah, the summons. Oh my god.
The summons
amazing.
are pretty. They're cool. They're all vehicles.
The first time I saw Shiva, God.
Yep.
Snow, great character. Love him. Love his arc.
I don't know about a great character.
I love the way that I love that. He's probably the most characterized person in that whole entire game.
Yeah.
You got Fang. It's a tie between Snow, and I'd say Saz probably wins out. Because that guy's story is awesome.
Yeah.
He tries to get somebody to kill him because he's so sad about his son and about betraying Vanille and Fang. Mm-hmm. And, God, it's just so good.
I'm going to come clean. I did not beat this game. Like Corey said, how long did you play it, Evan? I played it for 6 hours. I got to the part where they split up and it's just Lightning and
it could be anybody.
Kid.
They split up like a million
Lightning
times.
and the kid. It's when she gets Odin.
Oh, Lightning and Hope.
Hope, yeah. I played to that part. I got Odin and I was like, I feel like I've played enough of this game to give it a measure. It's not good.
That'll happen, though. See, that's one of the worst things about that game. The battle system.
Odin looks like a badass, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The battle system was just a nightmare because of the way that it was. It still had dodges in it, but you couldn't control your character, so you can't control those dodges. I was telling you about this, I think, Evan, before the last podcast. There's a way against certain bosses to make it so Saz never gets hit because he can continuously back off while he's doing a certain sequence of attacks.
Yeah, you mentioned
and then
that.
he backs as far possible away from the boss, and the boss cannot hit him. It's impossible.
That's broken.
Yeah, it's broken and it's not good. I mean, it's one instance, but at the same time, it's like, why have a dodge system? Why don't you just have it be a random roll? I don't care if the attack hits the character.
It worked fine in every other Final Fantasy game to have it be not a random roll, but an influenced roll.
Right. Don't give me this idea of like, oh, we didn't want everything to be static like it was in Final Fantasy VII and the earlier Final Fantasies.
Yeah.
We wanted people to be moving around, and it's like, okay, so my characters are going to
animate them moving around, but still have the core game mechanic be a roll.
Well, the problem is like the characters slowly walk around the boss. I hate that. It looks so stupid. And then I can't see all my characters at the same time. You can't control all your characters, which is just awful.
Yeah.
You can only control Lightning. If Lightning dies, you lose, which is just asinine.
Yeah. I think that probably that moving around is something that they might have borrowed from Hong Kong film. In Hong Kong martial arts films, when you have a large group of people fighting one guy, the trick that they do to make it look like it's a fully active fight they just have all of the extras moving around and filter, like, slipping in between each other and moving around, and it makes it look like they're involved in the fight even if they're not.
Right.
So that might kind of be what they were looking to get. I don't know.
I just wish they'd go back to static.
Yeah.
See, and now with Final Fantasy 15, they've gone ahead and made it full.
Actually, we can just go ahead and start talking about Final Fantasy 15, because I'm done talking about 13.
They've moved it on to now an action battle system. And it sucks, first of all. It's slow, it's clunky. There's too many buttons to, like, learn. You can't have an action game where you have to know every single button. It just doesn't work that way. As far as I could tell, I played Lightning Returns. I played the demo of it, because, God, I wasn't going to spend more than $10 on that game, which I could probably get it for, like, $8 now.
Yeah.
But, and I want to play it. I do. Because I think it's an interesting concept for a game, and I liked the battle system in that game because it felt actually tight. It felt like it worked. And because I was just controlling Lightning, I'm like, okay, now I'm not mad that I can't control all the other characters.
I like Lightning, by the way, when I'm not in control of a character, in control of her, when she's not my protagonist. Because having her show up in 14 was cool.
It was.
That makes her interesting.
But again, she was just, it didn't fit.
Yeah. It didn't, but it was still an interesting game.
It made sense considering the ridiculously contrived storyline of 13.
That is Lightning.
Yeah, and her just in general, where she can travel through time and stuff because God.
Yeah.
I don't know. But 15's just going to be a disaster. From what I saw, it was just so bad. It was worth it beating the demo just so I got to see
the nightmare that it is.
Well, no, just so I got to see Sid's daughter in the game, who was supposed to be female Sid, but then they changed it because everybody got so mad that there was a female Sid, which is dumb. Yeah, she was a mechanic. Now her name's Cindy, which is horrible.
What?
Yeah, it's awful. It's this whole big thing. It's just terrible.
Don't pander to your audience.
It's like, it would have been so cool. I've been saying for years, why not have a character named Sydney, a female character, make it female Sid, and they can just call her Sid, S-Y-D, bam, done. And it would be awesome. It would be just such a cool change. And then everybody came out. Kotaku was like, we just played Final Fantasy 15 and there's a female Sid and it's awesome. And then they translated it to English and they're like, yeah, no, there's not a female. It's her dad. And it's like,
boo!
Come on. Again with this.
Wow, that was really impassioned. You knocked something over in your rage.
It's upsetting.
Yeah. All right, so what did we do today? We covered Final Fantasies 10, 10-2, 12... regrettably, we had to cover 13 and up.
Briefly. We didn't even talk about Final Fantasy 13-2. I didn't play it.
Me either. I bought it.
I've seen... Of course you did.
I bought it, and I never unwrapped it even. It was just in its shrink-wrap packaging on my shelf as, like, a challenge and a reminder.
Honestly, here's what I'm waiting for. Because I do actually care about playing every single Final Fantasy game. I do want to play 13-2. I just haven't had the time right now. Mm-hmm. I'm waiting for them to re-release the Lightning Collection, which they've already done. I'm waiting for them to re-release it on PlayStation 4, because then I will play.
Okay.
I'll play 2 and Lightning Returns, not the first one. I 100% completed that game on PlayStation 3. I'm done.
If you do that, when you do that, you blow me those games, I will do it.
Okay.
And then we will revisit this.
We'll have a Final Fantasy 13 extravaganza.
Oh, boy. All right, so like I mentioned, we aren't going to talk about Final Fantasy 11 or 14, or 14, the better version of 14, because those are MMOs, and we're going to be doing an MMO segment in 2 weeks. So for now, Delby, you done barking, bud? Sorry, our dog's barking. Hi, bud. He's looking at us. It's adorable. For now, we're just going to wrap it up here. Corey, favorite Final Fantasy game?
Favorite Final Fantasy game? I still like... I like 14. I like 14, but if I have to choose one that we've talked about, it's definitely probably 10. The characters, the turn-based fighting, I just love it so much.
All right, so... Same thing, my favorite game is 10, but the only reason I don't like 9 more is because it doesn't have voice acting. But that's fine. It is definitely my favorite of the PlayStation games.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything else, 10. Alright, well, thank you very much for listening. We're going to call the podcast here. It will be available on SoundCloud. We finally we got our SoundCloud channel set up. It's going to be on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/c/plus Meridoc Nightsend. I know. It'll be in the description. And I think I'll put the link to both the blog that I made for this and the SoundCloud in every description. It's just going to be the same description in every single thing.
Everything in description. Everything.
Yep. So our next thing, like we said, is MMOs. We're also planning on doing one for Dragon Age, Mass Effect, Elder Scrolls, Blizzard games in general. We're going to hit Dungeons and Dragons at some point because while it's not a video game, it is basically the core of my gaming love.
It's the game.
It is the game. And I think when we talk about D&D, we'll also be able to talk about other tabletop MMOs.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
MMOs, he said. Tabletop RPGs.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you very much for helping me out again with this, Oz.
Yeah, no problem, man. Anytime.
Yep.
Which is in 2 weeks.
Yes. So, have a good day, everybody.
Bye-bye.